All right, let's dive into a framework that could completely change the game for you. We're talking about achieving more in the next 12 weeks than most people do in an entire year. And no, it's not about working yourself to the bone. It's about fundamentally shifting how you think about your goals, your time, and how you get things done. I want to start with this quote from Stephen Pressfield because it hits home, right? We all have this feeling. There's the life we're living day to day, and then there's this other version of our life, the one we know deep down we're capable of living, where we've hit our biggest goals and really stepped into our full potential. And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If we can picture that better life, if we know it's in there somewhere, what is holding us back? What's keeping that gap open? Well, the answer probably isn't what you think it is. It really boils down to something called the execution gap. See, most of us already know what we need to do. We know we should probably eat a little healthier, get some exercise, maybe save a bit more money, or learn that new skill for our career. The problem isn't a lack of knowledge, it's a failure to execute on that knowledge. Let's look at an example to really see what I mean. Back in 2013, the fitness and diet industry in the US was worth a whopping $60 billion. That's a mind-boggling amount of money spent on information, gyms, diet books, supplements, everything designed to help people get healthy. And yet, in that exact same time frame, 65% of Americans were overweight or obese. Just think about that contrast for a second. It's staggering. It proves, without a doubt, that just having access to all the information and all the tools in the world doesn't mean you'll get the results. Which brings us to this crucial point. You know that old saying, knowledge is power? Well, it's kind of wrong, or at least it's missing a huge piece. Knowledge only becomes power when you actually use it. A library full of books you've never read won't make you any wiser. The problem has always been about execution. So if we all agree the problem is execution, what's causing us to fail at it? Well, one of the biggest culprits is the very way we've been taught to plan our goals, the good old annual plan. And it turns out this system has a massive flaw that basically sets us up to procrastinate. Think about it. When you set a goal in January that you don't have to hit until December, it feels like it's a lifetime away. Psychologically, this gives us this false sense of security. We tell ourselves, oh, I've got plenty of time, and so we push the real work off until tomorrow, or next week, or next month. And we all know when the real work gets done, right? For students, it's that chaotic week right before final exams. For a lot of companies, it's the final quarter of the fiscal year. Why? Because when that deadline is staring you in the face, a powerful sense of urgency kicks in, and suddenly you're taking massive, focused action. Annual planning just doesn't have that urgency for most of the year. Okay, so if the annual plan is broken, what's the fix? Well, it's a really simple but profound shift in perspective. Instead of thinking of a year as 12 months, you start thinking of a year as just 12 weeks. What the 12-week year does is it essentially gives you 4 years packed into one. Each 12-week block is its own sprint, with its own plan and its own hard deadline. It artificially creates that powerful end-of-year urgency 4 times a year, which keeps you laser-focused and drives consistent action. So how do you actually make this work? It's not some crazy complicated system. It really just boils down to a powerful 3-part framework, having a clear vision, building a solid plan, and then focusing on smart execution. First up, you've got to have a vision. This is your why. It's what gets you out of bed in the morning. Then you break that vision down into a tactical week-by-week plan to make it happen in just 12 weeks. And finally, and this is the key, you execute that plan by ruthlessly focusing only on the things that matter most. And let's be clear, your vision is everything. It can't be some vague idea like, I want to be healthier. No way. It has to be a crystal clear, high-definition picture of your future. What does it feel like? What new things can you do? A vision that compelling gives you the emotional fuel you need to power through any obstacle. Now let's talk about the plan and the power of compressing time. This is awesome. Let's say your goal is to study English for a total of 312 hours. In a normal one-year plan, that's just 6 hours a week. It's so easy to say, I'll skip this week and catch up later. But if you compress that into a 12-week plan, that same 312 hours suddenly becomes 26 hours a week. That intensity creates incredible focus, and you end up getting the exact same result in a quarter of the time. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, smart execution. This is all about leveraging a concept you've probably heard of, the 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle. It's a simple idea. In almost anything, a small number of causes create the majority of the results. So, what this really means is that not all of your actions are created equal, not even close. A tiny 20% of the things you do are likely producing a massive 80% of your results. The secret to being insanely productive is to figure out what that 20% is and focus almost all of your energy there. Let's go back to our English example. This is fascinating. Did you know that 80% of all everyday conversations in English use only about 20% of the words in the dictionary? Or that just 12 core grammar rules will cover you in the vast majority of situations? So instead of trying to learn everything, you just focus on that vital 20%, the most common words, the core rules, and you can become fluent ridiculously fast. When you put all this together, you start to see that the 12-week year is so much more than a productivity hack. It's a whole philosophy. It's about understanding the direct, unbreakable link between what you are doing right now and the life you are going to have. This is such a simple but profound truth. Think about it. Your health, your finances, your career, your relationships, everything about your life right now is just a lagging measure of the actions and choices you made in the past. Your present is simply a reflection of your history. But here is the most empowering part of all. If your past actions created your present, then it means your present actions are creating your future. Right now, today, you are in the driver's seat. The choices you make and the things you do today are literally the building blocks of the life you're going to live tomorrow. So I'm going to leave you with this one question. Forget about the next year for a minute. Heck, forget about the next 12 weeks. What is the single most important 20% action you can take this week that will create 80% of the momentum you need to finally close that gap and start living that unlived life within you?